My name is Jim McGillivray, and this is the Pipe Box, your source for all things piping. If you find this video useful, please give it a like, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel to see more videos like this in future. I'm going to do this video today with a great big boo-boo in the middle of my forehead. I sustained a 5-stitch cut early this morning, slipped down to the clinic, had it fixed up, and now I'm ready to do a video. Oddly, you will not see the boo-boo later on in the video because we did the later part of the video yesterday. This is the first part of the video now. Okay, let's get back into Duncan MacRae. Duncan MacRae had a company that existed from 1897 until 1952. Duncan MacRae was what was called a pattern maker, maybe what we might call a machinist today. He was able to fabricate items, tools, anything out of any material, lots of metal. It gave him the skills to do just about anything he wanted, and for some reason he decided he would make bagpipes. The first set of pipes we know of, made by Duncan MacRae, appeared around 1908, and it's shortly after that that his business begins to be listed as a bagpipe maker. So I don't think we'll ever see any Duncan MacRae pipes before 1908. Duncan was a very clever man, and he made the acquaintance of pipe major Willie Gray, who was also a very clever man. Between the two of them, they introduced a lot of innovations into the MacRae bagpipe. Not every MacRae bagpipe has them, but several of them do, and many of them have one or two of these innovations. I'm going to read you a passage from Jeannie Campbell's fantastic book, Highland Bagpipe Makers. Jeannie is a wonderful researcher and writer for piping. She has put so much on paper for us that she deserves our thanks, and this is one of her great books. So here is Duncan MacRae and the innovations they put into their bagpipe. Duncan was able to use his skills to produce many ingenious innovations for the bagpipe. These included O-rings instead of hemped joints. We still see those. A bent chanter stock, bottom drone joints which screwed into the stocks, a blowpipe with a built-in valve, a combined valve and water trap, a pipe chanter grip built into the pipe chanter, non-hemped joints, and a drone top which could be screwed out to extend the length of the bass drone. The work of tying in bags was eliminated by threading the stocks, which were then inserted into the bag and secured by a wooden nut, which was screwed on from the inside. The best known invention was the patent metal tuning slide, which had slits at the top, giving the tuning pin a kind of spring. However, these tended to wear away the inside of the drone over time, giving a loose fit, although they could be tightened by tapping the top of the slide with a hammer to open up the slits. As I said, most of these innovations did not catch on in the larger piping world. Duncan MacRae's hempless tuning slides did catch on, at least with the Duncan MacRae Company, and they were used for many years, and we still see them today. Let's have a close look at the tuning slide. At first glance, it just looks like a standard pipe drone tuning slide, which it is. It'll be made out of nickel or some composite. If we look more closely, we can see that in the end of it, we have several slits cut all around. These are sprung just the right amount to provide a snug but easy tuning action. When they work, they're lovely, but you rarely see them on MacRae pipes anymore because they tend to become non-functional, as this one had. After 1909, each hempless slide had the patent number and the date on the bottom of the slide. This was stamped into it. This particular set doesn't have that, and that suggests that this set may have been made quite early in the life of the company. Duncan MacRae died in 1930, and his son James took the company over. The company continued until James' death in 1951. It passed hands over to the Granger and Campbell pipe-making company, who took over the premises and the equipment. The premises that Duncan MacRae was on at this time was 1103 Argyll Street in Glasgow. Granger and Campbell located there after Duncan MacRae, and it became quite a famous residence. This was where pipers from all over the world would congregate to have a chance to meet, listen to, and perhaps work with the great Donald MacLeod at the Granger shop in the 1960s and 1970s. After the Grangers closed, that address then became the home of Pipe Dreams, who make Easy Tro. So 1103 Argyll Street is quite a famous piping address. So that's a little bit about the history of Duncan MacRae bagpipes. Let's have a close look at this bagpipe now. This is our MacRae bagpipe, and a lovely looking bagpipe it is. We think it was made around 1909, right at the start of the company. It's a lovely looking bagpipe. Solid stalks. This instrument has been completely refurbished. It did have some cracks. It was stripped, checked for cracks. Cracks were invisible, whipped. The pipes were refinished. All the nickel was shone, and they look as good as new. You'll see that this set has African blackwood projecting mounts rather than ivory. The tuning slides, of course, are not original because we had to take off the hempless slides. All the rest of the instrument is original. This is another bagpipe, much like the Robert Reed bagpipe we studied a few weeks ago, which could easily be mistaken for a Henderson as well. There's no doubt when they have the hempless tuning slides who made the bagpipe, but without that it's an easy bagpipe to get fooled by. Now we know a little bit about the history of the Duncan MacRae Company, and we've seen what his bagpipe looks like. It's time to hear it. We're going to go to the recording studio at St. Andrew's College in Aurora, Ontario, and we're going to hear the great piper Matt MacIsaac play us a couple of tunes on this very MacRae bagpipe, and then Matt and I will sit down and have a chat about it. Here's Matt MacIsaac. And here we are with Matt MacIsaac, back at the Pipe Box. Welcome, Matt. You've been here a few times. It's always great to have you.
Likewise, thank you.
We just heard Matt play a tune or two on the set of Duncan MacRae bagpipes. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about the tunes you played?
Today I played The Flight of the Eaglets and The Snuff Wife.
Flight of the Eaglets, one of Willie Ross's great tunes, and The Snuff Wife is John Wilson, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, great tunes, and the pipe sounded excellent to my ear. I was 8 feet away from it. When you first struck up to get ready to play, you tuned in about a minute, and I thought you could play right now. And then you spent some time futzing with the bagpipe. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, true. I struck up and I got them in tune really quickly. They sounded great, and I felt the same. I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to go right now. But they were warming up. The heater had come on, and so they just took a minute to acclimatize. The setup is sheepskin this time. I had been playing a synthetic bag up till now, and so I think it just took a few minutes for everything to settle in.
Yeah, I noticed as well, and this was again before we rolled the cameras, that you spent a lot of time moving tape here and there, which is a pretty common process in your playing and in the playing of most top pipers I know. Can you tell us a little bit about your use of tape and why it's a good thing and not a bad thing?
Yeah, absolutely. All the notes of the chanter have to be tuned relative to the drones, and so it had been a few days since I'd played it. It was picking up moisture, like I said, and some notes were moving around a little bit, not by a whole lot, but just enough that they weren't bang on, and I just can't really stomach it when they're not bang on.
No. And tape is our fine-tuning tool.
Absolutely.
So once you got the pipes in tune, I noticed that they tuned a little bit on the low side. Did you notice that?
Yeah, right off the bat when I put reeds in it. The reed seats were quite narrow, so I had to take hemp off the reeds and really get them in there. And then even then, my chanter was much sharper than the drones were, so I had to do some further adjusting of the reeds, push them fairly far down to bring the tops up. But they locked in really, really well.
They did, and yeah, I mentioned that the tuning lower because I'm noticing that as the pitch of our chanters goes up, our vintage pipes are tuning a little bit lower and lower to match that pitch. I would say the drone reed makers perhaps haven't quite caught up to the chanter makers yet, but they will. So overall, you played a set of lorries for us a week or two ago. How does the MacRae set compare to the lorry set, as you recall?
The MacRaes and the lorries are both bold instruments to me. The MacRaes felt a little more present in the bass than the lorries did. The lorries, I really got a sense of the tenors. Like the tenors were right there. Very broad tenor sound. I think it's kind of a typical thing. With MacRae's, certainly bold tenors, but the bass was more prominent. Really well balanced. It was lovely.
And you mentioned earlier you thought the tenors maybe had a fairly narrow tuning range.
Yeah, the bass had a bit of travel. You could really make it travel before you locked it in. The tenor, the middle tenor especially, was really, it was just like a tiny little movement to really lock it in. They sound great when they're almost locked in. They sound great across the range, but it took quite a small adjustment to really get it 100%.
I always think of top drawer bagpipes and almost top drawer bagpipes and second drawer bagpipes. Where would you rank a bagpipe like this?
Oh, top drawer for sure. It was such a lovely sound, such a big. I say lovely a lot, but it was just so pleasing to hear that sound come alive on your shoulder. Yeah.
We've heard it many times come alive on Stu Liddell's shoulder.
Absolutely, yeah.
With great success. So they're a first-class bagpipe, I think, and Matt agrees.
Absolutely.
That is our tour of a Duncan MacRae bagpipe. My thanks to Matt MacIsaac for coming on and joining us in the studio. From me and Matt MacIsaac here at the Pipe Box, good piping.